The Human Head. Everybody's heard the legend of the Headless Horseman who terrorized the town of Sleepy Hollow a long time ago. But I'll bet you've never heard the story of the Human Head, who lived a few miles away in the town of Elmsford. And just because the Human Head didn't go around chucking flaming jack-o'-lanterns at people doesn't mean his story isn't worth telling, too. So let's start at the beginning. Before the Human Head of Elmsford got his nickname, he was just a regular kid named Anders. Anders was normal in every way, except he was born without a body. But that didn't stop Anders from doing all the things other kids his age did, like jumping off a diving board, or, in Anders's case, bouncing his head off a diving board. Anders's parents loved him very much and told him he could be whatever he wanted to be, and that made Anders feel good. Anders had lots of friends in elementary school and was so popular that he got voted class president in the 5th grade. Vote for Anders, head and shoulders above the rest. But things changed when it came time for Anders to go to middle school. A few of his closest friends moved away during the summer, and some others went to private school. So when September came around, Anders felt like he was starting over. The first day of middle school isn't easy for anyone, but it's even harder when you're a late bloomer like Anders and you haven't hit your growth spurt yet. Back in elementary school, Anders stayed in one classroom the whole day. But middle school was a different thing, and sometimes Anders had trouble getting from one class to another before the bell rang. When lunchtime came, Anders was happy because he really needed a break, and plus his mom had packed him a bologna sandwich and his favorite snack. But by the time he got to the cafeteria, all the good seats were already taken. Anders spotted a table across the cafeteria with a bunch of empty seats. And that's where Anders saw the Headless Horseman for the first time. Right now you're probably thinking, oh no, the Headless Horseman is going to do something terrible to Anders. But don't worry, because this was way before the Headless Horseman turned evil. In fact, this was way before he got that nickname, and a few years before he even learned to ride a horse. For now, the Headless Horseman just went by his real name, which was Gunther. And like I said, he wasn't evil yet, so when he spotted Anders, he invited him to sit at his table. Well, from the moment they met, Anders and Gunther became fast friends. Gunther didn't mind that Anders was a little chatty, and Anders didn't mind that Gunther shoveled food down his neck hole to eat. Shake, shake. The two boys started hanging out after school almost every day. Anders helped Gunther with his homework, and Gunther helped Anders with just about everything else. He even lifted Anders by the hair so he could drink from the water fountain. Slurp. Fall turned to winter, and the two best friends made lots of happy memories together. Like the time Gunther used Anders as the head for his snowman. When February rolled around, everyone at school was buzzing about the big Valentine's dance. Valentine's Dance, February 14th, 7 to 9 p.m. But both boys were too shy to ask anyone to go with them, and before long it seemed like everyone at school was paired up. Gunther and Anders were sad because they knew they'd be spending the night of the dance playing video games like they always did. Blam, blam, pow, pow. But something happened the week before Valentine's Day that changed everything. A girl named Prudence, whose family had just moved to town, showed up at the school. And she was so pretty that some of the guys who'd asked other girls to the dance were kind of kicking themselves. Even though Gunther and Anders both thought Prudence was cute, neither one of them was brave enough to ask her to the Valentine's dance. But then Anders had an idea. He said maybe if the two of them teamed up, they could convince Prudence to go to the dance with them. And after a lot of rehearsing in front of the mirror, with Anders's head on Gunther's body, they felt like this might actually work. The next day the guys brought a bouquet of flowers to school and got the courage to ask Prudence to the dance. And believe it or not, she said yes. On the night of the big dance, Anders put on some of his dad's cologne so he'd smell good for his date. And Gunther's parents rented him a cape so he'd look extra handsome. So when the guys showed up at Prudence's house, they were looking pretty sharp. When the three kids got to the school, they didn't know what to expect because this was the first time any of them had been to a real dance. But the party planning committee had really done their job because the cafeteria looked totally amazing. Anders, Gunther, and Prudence hung out by the refreshments table for a while, and Anders told a few jokes he had been practicing. And when Prudence laughed, Anders thought things couldn't be going any better. Hee hee. When the music really got cranking, no one wanted to be the first to step onto the dance floor. But then Gunther surprised everyone by totally going for it. It turns out Gunther was a really awesome dancer, and no one was happier about that than Anders. That was all it took to get everyone else out on the dance floor, and before long, the party was in high gear. Anders and Gunther started a conga line and everyone joined in. But Anders wasn't looking where he was going, and that led to disaster. Gunther's body bumped into the refreshment table, and Anders' head fell into the punch bowl. Oops! Scream! Prudence was kind of upset, because until now she thought Gunther and Anders were one person. She was a little sore at the guys for not being honest with her about who they really were. But after Anders apologized, she forgave them, and when a slow song came on, Gunther asked her to dance. Even though Anders had a great spot right next to the cookie platter, the rest of the night wasn't very much fun for him. After that night, things started to change between Anders and Gunther. Both of them liked Prudence, and at school, they fought for her attention. But Prudence liked both guys for different reasons. So on Friday nights, she'd go roller skating with Gunther, and on Saturdays, she'd go with Anders to a museum or a foreign language film. Even though Anders really enjoyed spending time with Prudence, he missed hanging out with his pal even more. So one day at lunch, Anders told Gunther that if he was in love with Prudence, then Anders wouldn't get in his way. That night, Gunther went to Prudence's house with a bouquet of flowers to declare his love for her. But Prudence said her heart belonged to somebody else, and Gunther left broken-hearted. And you can probably guess who Prudence chose instead. Anders. Smooch. Gunther never got over his heartbreak, and when he grew up, he became the legendary Headless Horseman, who terrorized young couples on Valentine's Day, and not on Halloween night like everyone always thinks. The Daily Crier, February 15, 1777. Horseman strikes again. Believe it or not, Anders and Prudence dated all the way through high school. They took a break when they went to colleges in different states, but got back together after they graduated. Prudence became a veterinarian, and Anders became an accountant, and they raised their family in Elmsford. And even though Prudence and Anders never made the front page of the newspaper like their famous friend, they did make a difference by starting a community garden in the town where they lived.